I never thought I'd see the day when my marriage would hit the skids, let alone because of something so bizarre and high-tech, but here we are. My name's Mark, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 6 years now. We met in college, hit it off pretty quickly, and I thought we had a good thing going, at least on the surface. She was the kind of girl who could be bitchy, sure, but I figured that was just her personality. I was pretty smitten, and honestly, I was happy with how things were. But over the last few months, I started noticing little weird things. She'd be secretive about her phone or her laptop, more than usual. She'd hide her screen when I came into the room. Sometimes, she'd get defensive if I asked her who she was texting or what she was doing online. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she was just tired or stressed. Women can be like that, right? But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, especially because she'd started to get really dismissive when I brought up plans or even basic questions about her day. Then, one night, I caught her in a lie. I was working late, but I saw her sneaking her phone away when I came into the living room. She was acting nervous. I asked her what she was hiding, and she snapped at me, called me paranoid. But I looked closer and saw her typing something into her phone, something that looked suspicious, like a private message to someone. My gut clenched tight, and I knew I had to find out what was going on. I didn't want to believe she was cheating, but the signs were piling up. It was like she was hiding a secret, and I was just too blind to see it until that moment. The next day, I decided I had to dig deeper. I started paying closer attention, not just to her words but her behavior overall. She was still acting edgy, more bitchy than usual, snapping at me over the smallest things. It was like she was walking on eggshells, but I couldn't figure out why. I kept asking myself if I was just paranoid, if I was imagining things. But then I remembered something I'd overlooked: her laptop. One evening, I came home early from work. Because I wasn't feeling well, I caught her in the act, literally. I saw her logged into some obscure gaming platform, but that wasn't unusual. She loved playing those multiplayer games. But what caught my eye was the fact that she was logged into a virtual environment, a custom-made private world she'd built in her development environment. I'd seen her work on that world before, but she told me it was just a hobby. Now, it looked like more than that. I looked closer and found a chat window open with someone named Eli. The messages were flirty, downright provocative. She was talking about how great it was to escape into their private world, how she loved their secret meetings, how she couldn't wait for the next one. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She was cheating on me, using this virtual space, this artificial world, as some secret affair. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just hiding her phone or being bitchy. She was sneaking around in a whole separate universe, creating a private fantasy with some guy she met online. And the worst part, she insisted she was just playing games, that it was all innocent. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to process what I'd just seen. The betrayal cut deep. She'd lied about her hobbies, about her interests. She'd been sneaking into this artificial universe with someone else, and I had no idea. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and a sick sense of betrayal. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? This wasn't just a fling. This was her creating a whole new world with him, and I was just the fool who thought we were building a life together. I spent hours staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it all, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. The moment I realized the extent of her betrayal, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal when I was just waiting for the next lie to come out. That night, I sat her down in the living room, my hands trembling, and showed her what I'd found. I kept my voice steady as I told her I knew she was cheating, that she'd been sneaking around with Eli in her virtual world. Her reaction was instant. Her face twisted into that bitchy smirk she always wore when she was trying to deny something she knew she was guilty of. "Mark, seriously, you're overreacting," she spat, crossing her arms. "It's just a game. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I don't know what you saw, but you're just being paranoid. Eli's just a guy I met online and we're just talking, okay? It's not like we're having sex or anything real." Her voice was sharp, dismissive, trying to brush it off like it was no big deal. But I saw the insecurity in her eyes, the guilt trying to hide behind that bitchy facade. I pressed harder. I told her I saw her messages, how she talked about how much she loved their secret world, how she looked forward to their meetings. I asked her why she lied about her hobby, why she was sneaking in a private universe with this guy. She rolled her eyes, then started spinning some bullshit about how Eli was just a friend, that she needed an outlet, that she was bored. She told me I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure. But her words felt hollow, like she was just trying to cover her tracks. I wasn't buying it. As she kept lying, I felt something break inside me. I'd always thought I knew her, but now I was realizing I never really knew anything. I was furious, but also heartbroken. How could she lie to my face, cheat behind my back, and then have the nerve to act like I was the crazy one? The shock was overwhelming, but I knew I couldn't let it go. I had to do something, and fast. I needed answers, and I needed to decide what my next move was. The next few days were a whirlwind. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been utterly duped. Every time I looked at her, I saw the same bitchy smirk, the same dismissiveness. It was like she had no remorse, no real regret, just that attitude that she could lie her way out of anything. Honestly, I hadn't felt so betrayed in my life. I used to think we had something real, something worth fighting for. Now I wasn't so sure anymore. Deciding to do something about it, I started gathering evidence. I logged into her accounts when she wasn't around, saved chat logs, took screenshots of her messages with Eli, and even found out her virtual meetings in that private world of hers. I knew I couldn't confront her again without something concrete. I also started thinking about revenge, something to make her feel the pain she'd caused me. I wanted her to realize what she was losing, to see how it felt to be betrayed, not just lied to. One afternoon, I set up a trap. I wanted her to believe I wasn't suspicious, so I acted normal, made her coffee, sat on the couch pretending to watch TV. Then I got a message on my phone that I knew was from her. She'd been sneaking into her virtual world again, meeting Eli. But I had already planned what I'd do. I logged into her computer remotely, and I found their private world, this whole artificial universe they created together. It was like a secret hideout, a place where she could indulge her fantasies without me. That's when I decided I'd take back control. I'd found out her secret, her virtual infidelity, and I knew I had to hit her where it hurt. I started planning how to expose her, how to make her realize that her cheating wasn't just some harmless game or hobby. It was a betrayal of everything we'd built together. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was determined. I'd seen enough to know that this wasn't just a mistake or a lapse in judgment. It was a full-blown affair, one she kept hidden behind her bitchy attitude and lies. I was done being the fool. By now, I'd collected enough to make her realize how deep this shit really went. I knew I had to act carefully, so I waited for the right moment, when she'd be most vulnerable. One night she was out with her friends, or so she said. I was sitting in the dark, going through everything I'd found, screenshots, chat logs, even a recording of her virtual meetings. I felt sick, but also strangely calm. I knew I had to do something drastic to make her see she couldn't keep lying. When she got home that night, I confronted her. I pulled out the evidence, showed her the chat logs where she was openly flirting with Eli, describing their secret meetings in that virtual world, how she talked about how much she loved their private universe. Her eyes widened, and for a second I thought she'd break down. Instead, she straightened up, that bitchy smirk returning as she tried to brush it off. "Mark, you're overreacting," she spat, crossing her arms again. "It's just a game. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. Eli's just a guy I met online and we're just talking. You're jealous, insecure, and honestly, you're being pathetic." Her voice was sharp, filled with that kind of contempt she always threw around when she was trying to lie her way out of something. I felt rage boil inside me. How dare she call me pathetic when she's out there cheating in a virtual world she lied about? The audacity. I wasn't having it. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her I know exactly what she's been doing, that I wasn't going to be a cuckold to some guy she met in a digital universe. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, her sneaking around, her creating her own little fantasy world where she could cheat behind my back. Her face turned red, and she started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of invading her privacy, but I wasn't backing down anymore. I'd shown her I knew everything. Now it was her turn to face the consequences. That's when I made the decision. She'd crossed a line and I was going to make her regret it. I wasn't going to let this slide, not anymore. I wanted her to see that her actions had real consequences, that I wasn't just some doormat. I had planned to confront her again, but this time with more than just words. I was going to show her that I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. The confrontation left a bitter taste in my mouth, but I knew I had to do something more concrete. The next day, I told her I needed space, no more pretending everything was fine. While she was out, I started working on my plan. I knew she loved the virtual world she built with Eli, so I decided to invade it to show her that her secret paradise was no longer private. I broke into her virtual universe, the one she'd crafted so carefully, and I did it not just to punish her but to make her understand how deeply she'd betrayed me. I turned her private world into a mess, deleted files, changed the scenery, and even added some messages that made it clear I was inside, watching her every move. I wanted her to see firsthand that her secret space wasn't so secret anymore. When she logged in later that night, I knew she'd see the chaos, the evidence of my intrusion, and realize her so-called innocent meetings had been exposed. Her reaction was priceless. She was furious, panic-stricken, and then, for the first time, genuinely remorseful. Her bitchy attitude melted away into tears and she finally broke down, admitting she'd been selfish, stupid, and hurtful. That moment was the turning point. The woman I thought I knew had been hiding her infidelity behind a screen, behind a virtual world, and I'd been blind to it for so long. But rather than keep fighting or throw her out right then, I knew deep down I had to decide if I could forgive her, if we could rebuild trust from this chaos. I realized that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, wasn't the answer. It was about whether we could ever get past what she did and whether she was willing to put in the effort to fix it. In the end, I chose to leave her, not out of pure anger, but because I couldn't trust her anymore. Her lies cut too deep, and her virtual betrayal made me see how much she valued that secret world over our real one. I learned a harsh lesson about how technology can be used to hide the worst parts of ourselves, and how sometimes love isn't enough to fix what's broken. I don't regret what I did. I only regret that I stayed so long before realizing she was never really honest with me. Moving forward, I know I'll be more cautious, more aware, and definitely more skeptical of anyone who seems too dismissive or secretive. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's painfully hard to put back together.